Hi, I'm JJ. Welcome to Jane Austen July. I was able to finally get in this book. I wasn't sure I would be able to fit it in on time, but I did. Sanditon is one of the few Jane Austen books that I have not read yet. I've read all of her novels. I haven't read any of her other stuff. I thought this was okay. It was typical Jane Austen. It wasn't my favorite by any means. It wasn't awful. It was just so much like a lot of her other stuff. You had one of, the despicable men that was a possible suitor, like usual, and unfortunately, Charlotte also was in love with someone that she turned down, and I guess what interested me the most, besides like the predictable and regular Jane Austen love story, was the fact that it was a lot about the town of Sanditon and its people, and how Charlotte just watched them all, how she experienced life there, how she got to hear the gossip, and one of the ending storylines was a gossip that you had heard at the beginning that kind of was just in passing, and you didn't think much of it just because the whole book was, about different people and stuff, and it had this big resolution at the end that I actually found quite satisfying. It ended up being a mystery that I didn't realize was supposed to be a mystery, and I liked that part of it. I guess it's just a middling Jane Austen book for me. I actually had not heard much about this one. You hear about all her main ones, so that's probably why this one kind of slipped under my radar and I haven't read till now. But I really have to say my favorite is Persuasion. That being said, I really enjoy every adaptation of Pride and Prejudice that there is. I'm talking movies, the versions, like obviously the Keira Knightley version, but there was a really fun Bride and Prejudice movie that is a Bollywood take on the Pride and Prejudice story that I found amusing. To go with Pride and Prejudice, North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell is basically an homage to her love for Pride and Prejudice and Jane Austen, and I actually preferred that one. I know Jane Austen July, I should not be saying that, but I preferred North and South. But Persuasion was my favorite. I loved the resolution at the end, the great declaration of love. The only one that beats it is the infamous "If I loved you less, I would have been able to talk about it more" speech. So I also think that, like, what I did like about Sanditon was that it was actually action. Some of her early works, you could see that the writing style had changed, where a lot of the people at the time had originally been writing epistolary books. So you had, you had Dracula, you have Frankenstein, and many of the first Jane Austen books, which was my complaint about Pride and Prejudice, was all the action happened off the page in a letter. Oh, this happened, I'm so upset, so-and-so said this, and when I was waiting for like these big moments and stuff, none of it happened on screen. And so I like that she evolved as a writer, and I guess you have to say not just as a writer, but like with the times as writing and novels finally differentiated themselves. Like at first they had to write that way because it was the way that you wrote a novel and how it was different than the epic poetry and stuff. You had to kind of differentiate yourself. So when they stepped away from that and were able to just write, I really enjoy that she does have witty dialogue. She does have interesting character observations and interactions that don't always come across well when it's written in a letter to someone, because you're kind of not as invested, or at least I'm not as invested in the story. That being said, I also did really enjoy, even though it was unfinished just like this one, was Lady Susan. I loved how despicable Lady Susan was, and how she wrote it so much. She was so young when she wrote that, and it went unfinished, and as her writing and stuff evolved, I would have liked to have her come back to that story, but I don't know if she would have made it better. I like that when she was young, she was completely fine with subverting expectations of a female author who was meant to write romance, meant to write happy endings, meant to write like a certain way, because that's what women write. And with Lady Susan, she subverted that by writing a villain. And I thought that was fascinating, and I would have actually liked her to do more of that as like the main character, and not just have like these despicable men who get their comeuppance in the end. I would have liked to see where she would have explored further by writing about not so good main characters. And that, I guess, is my my analysis of Jane Austen in general. She went the conventional route of writing, romances, writing love, and I do enjoy Jane Austen. But, when you compare her to the Bronte sisters, or you even compare her to Louisa May Alcott, who you could tell didn't want to give readers what they wanted by not having Jo, with who you assumed she would end up with reading that story. And so I guess the Austens that I enjoy are the ones who subvert the expectations put on her. So like when you do Mansfield Park or Northanger Abbey and stuff, like, they're not as traditional as Pride and Prejudice, Persuasion, Emma, Sense and Sensibility. And so, not that they're my favorite, it's just I love that we got to see a well-rounded Jane Austen who, like in this book, who pokes fun at society, at herself, at her family, kind of in some of the descriptions, just like the always anxious, sickly, like the ones complaining and stuff. Like, you can tell, like, that she was having fun with this book, even though I didn't necessarily always have fun with this book. I did enjoy the ending. I enjoyed, it took me a while to get into this one, actually. And I would be curious, because this one was the finished one by somebody else, with somebody else. And I would be very curious, since I don't have the copy or anything, to have just read her finished product and see how much of it she got through, what parts were added and changed. And this author was supposedly went off of her synopsis and her notes and stuff, and was a historian, a person who studied Jane Austen, and so she tried to write it as true to her as herself. I just would like to know personally where Jane Austen ended and where this other author came in and finished it for her, just because that fascinates me. Another one that was unfinished, not by Jane Austen, but Elizabeth Gaskell, the Wives and Daughters. She had it almost completely finished, and so it went unfinished, but it probably had only like 1 or 2 chapters left, and you knew exactly where it was going, and I just want to see how far she got along on this one. And another one I haven't read yet that's was unfinished as well is Buccaneers by Edith Wharton. So I guess it just fascinates me, like, especially when you're reading an author where you read all of their other works, and then you're getting to see the progression of their writing, and how how what could have been a great work just went unfinished because they either, like in Lady Susan that she wrote, she abandoned it versus being unable to finish because you die before it's done. And so I actually didn't research as much as I usually do this one to know if it went unfinished because this was her last work, or if she abandoned this one to finish her other works. So if anyone actually knows that detail, please let me know, just because I should have done it beforehand. Maybe it would have helped with my enjoyment of this, but I am fascinated to know. And I was glad to be a part of Jane Austen July and just add her last unfinished by me novel to my my list, so I don't have any other ones to read, and I am just grateful that we do have her books to reread and to discuss, and I read them like in publication order minus this one. So as I read them, it was very interesting just to see her progression as a writer, and like I said, seeing that writing style change as she went to less from like the letters back and forth and having most of it, all the action be like off page, to like finding her footing and what I believe was improvement into her writing style as she kind of subverted the genre, kind of explored other genres when she kind of did like a faux gothic one, or when she just learned that show rather than tell, and have the action be on screen and the interactions and stuff be on screen. So I really do enjoy Jane Austen, and I am welcome to discussion. So please comment me your favorite Jane Austen book, whether you read Sanditon or not, whether you disagree or agree with any of the stuff that I've said. I would be curious to know. Thank you, and as always, enjoy.